Welcome to the Green Desert of Wales. You probably know Snowdonia and the Brecon Beacons in Wales, but have you heard of the Cambrian Mountains? Penny, my son Toby and I took the Swift Basecamp to the Camping and Caravanning Club CS site near St Harmon, north of Rhayader. It's a quiet 5-pitch site which is hard to see from the road because of the tree cover. The facilities are basic but clean. There's a bunkhouse on site which sleeps 20. Find links to it in the description. On our second day, we drove the 15 minutes into the pretty town of Rhayader for the start of our first hike. It has a good selection of shops and an excellent bike shop where you hire bikes to cycle along the Elan Valley or into the surrounding hills. On our route out, we crossed the River Wye and went down to a pebbly beach. It's a beautiful spot with a recreation ground nearby. We carried on out and headed northwest into the hills and were soon hiking up on stony tracks. As we climbed, the views of the surrounding mountains and valleys came into view. The Cambrian Mountains run from Snowdonia in North Wales to the Brecon Beacons in the south. They are lower than the peaks in the north and south of Wales, but challenging enough. The tracks around Rhayader are ideal for mountain bikers and bikepackers, and we saw several out enjoying the hills. Few visitors come to this part of Wales, so it is quiet, but with plenty to do and see nevertheless. The hiking around Rhayader is particularly good, with clear, dry, easy to follow tracks. Many tracks follow ancient cart and drover routes. At one point we saw evidence of carts that had worked away the rock over the years. Soon enough we dropped back into the Elan Valley and headed east along a former railway track which is now a cycling and walking route. The track is packed with wildlife, including wildflower meadows. We'd covered about 10 miles by the time we got back to Rhayader. We went back to the base camp for a relaxing evening. Find the route details in the description below. The following day we had a slow start and went into Rhayader again to visit the Red Kite Feeding Station, which is east of the town. The feeding station is on a working farm. There's a cafe, gift shop and a beautiful nature walk too. We followed the route and we're glad we did. The views are great and there is tons of wildlife. The highlight, however, is the daily feeding at 3 p.m. of the red kites. In the summer, about 300 red kites appear to feed. In the winter, there can be up to 600 kites. It's an impressive sight and well worth going to see the spectacle. We've been away in the base camp several times in the winter. This is our first time away in it in the summer. Having the windows open in the summer is great, but the bugs can get in, which isn't good. Fortunately, Swift has thought about this problem and fitted the base camp with fly screens. The rear door screen comes with a plus pack. Our next hike was up to a local high point. Toby went for a bike ride that day. Penny and I set off from a point west of Rhayader in the Elan Valley and headed along the tracks through a picturesque valley. Soon we left the stony tracks and followed a grassy path. The track became harder to make out in the tufty grass and I had to follow a bearing on my compass for a while. Soon we found a bigger track and followed it towards 2 prominent cairns in the distance. These enormous cairns mark a ridge known as Dragon 4. Penny and I stopped for lunch at the second cairn near a trig point. From there we could see the Brecon Beacons to the south. After lunch we headed across country following a grassy track which took us over peat bogs. You can see why Mid Wales is called the Green Desert of Wales. Not many people visit the area and there's miles of open moorland. Navigating across it can be tricky. We've been picking our way through the peat bog between these cairns, which you can see on the top of the hill here, and they sort of mark the rough track, and you literally can't see the track, so I'm having to pinpoint these. Oh, Penny and I have been walking along here for about 7 miles now, and we're right up in the hills above the Elan Valley, and we're on a bridleway now. We've been walking across this rather rough, marshy, boggy ground, and unfortunately this bridleway's here and it's making it a lot easier underfoot. But we've in 7 miles we've seen 4 people and loads of sheep, and it's been pretty wet underfoot, but it's been good. We've really enjoyed it. There's been no one out here bar us and those other 4 walkers, and the weather's coming down a bit. It's been pretty dry, but you can see the clouds dropping down a bit now, and it's getting a little bit more inclement. Yeah, we've been up Dragon 4, and it's got 2 prominent cairns on it. Well, that nice dry bridleway has turned into a wet, tufty, hard-going path, and it's pretty wet underfoot, and the mist is coming down. It's still relatively bright, but the mist is coming down and we're starting to get a bit drizzled upon, and we've got another couple of miles to go, but we do drop off fairly soon onto a proper pathway, I believe, but this isn't much fun at all, and it's a bit boring, to be honest. Hey, coats are on, it's drizzling, and just thinking of getting back to the campsite and drying out. Well, that was tough going. We're back down in the valley now after being on top of the hills for a few hours, crossing the rough country. That was some of the roughest country I've been across for about 30 years. Tracks were indistinct, the weather was bad, wet underfoot, so you had to navigate pretty clearly. So we're down now, back in the valley, and it's a bit milder here. We're a bit tired, and we're heading back to the car now and back into Rhayader to do some shopping. Our 10-mile hike, we got back to the base camp for tea, toast and the game of cards. Nearby the campsite is a special place called Gilva Nature Reserve. It's an old farm which is as it was in the 1950s. A local nature trust bought the land and farmhouse. There is a small museum and an honesty box for drinks and biscuits. The nature reserve is covered with marked routes which take you through stunning meadows with beautiful views. The meadows in summer are teeming with butterflies. There's a place to sit and watch the dippers and other birds on the river too. The River Marteg runs through the reserve and it has a waterfall which salmon climb when they spawn. The Gilva Nature Reserve really is a special place. We return to the campsite to enjoy the evening sunshine. On our final full day, we decided to hike from Caravanning Reservoir over to a house called Little Pudding Cottage. At the start, there's a traditional Welsh longhouse. And soon after this, we started to climb into the hills. The route was hard to follow and we had to spot the route markers to make sure we were on the right route. At the top, the view on the other side opened up on the valley below. We dropped down into the valley and walked through a herd of Welsh ponies and soon arrived at Little Pudding Cottage. It's a remote place, but beautiful. The walk back was hard across the open country. It was not easy walking at all. We got back for a cool drink before heading to the local pub, the Mid Wales Inn, for dinner. The Cambrian Mountains in Mid Wales is a beautiful and quiet part of Britain, which is ideal for hikers, mountain bikers and kayakers. It's well worth visiting and there are plenty of places to camp. Put it on your list. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. All details about where to stay and our hikes are in the description below.